want to talk about what we face today. General Flynn, what was your opinion of the address that President Zelensky gave to the Congress and the decision by the U.S. government to give Patriot missiles to Ukraine?
Yeah, so first of all, the mainstream media, Roger, I think you've seen them. They're comparing Zelensky to Churchill. I mean, that is about as far from any the truth as you can possibly get. I mean, this guy Zelensky and his background, he is a puppet placed into a role as the president of Ukraine. And let me remind people, this is really according to our own State Department and other components of our government. Ukraine is at the very top of human trafficking, money laundering, drug trafficking, and weapons trafficking globally. That's what Ukraine does. That's what Ukraine has done for many, many years. And it's also been a place where people, particularly people that are in the Biden administration, have wandered into and out of to make millions and millions of dollars for their own money, for their own selfish reasons. So Zelensky's address to Congress, first of all, should have never been allowed to happen. Number one. And the other part about what I want people to understand is that this $1.7 trillion omnibus bill, many Republicans actually signed off on that. So we're making this guy Zelensky, because we allow him to come in there. There's just such ridiculousness, particularly by the Democratic Party, cheering him on as though he's, the guy was dressed in a workout, suit, addressing the United States Congress. And so the things that he said, the direction that he is taking the United States of America is into a place where we do not want to be. We do not want to be tied up any longer in this mess in Eastern Europe. This is a mess that was created by people like Zelensky. It's created by people in our own State Department. It was created prior to the Trump administration in 2014. The time frame when the Russians first went in there, this was totally avoidable. And the fact that we're about to give him even more money just tells you everything you need to know about how corrupt and criminal this entire enterprise is, of what's happening in Eastern Ukraine. This idea to put these very expensive, very capable weapon systems into Ukraine, that means that we're going to be bringing in trainers. We're going to be bringing in the logistics to back those up. That means we are going to creep even further by putting, quote unquote, more and more boots on the ground. And we are going to find ourselves in a shooting war where the United States is directly involved. Sadly, I know people who are over there making a lot of money. They're making a lot of money, and they're mercenaries. They're former military, and they're over there making an awful lot of money on a daily basis. And I'm very upset with some of them who I know, and I've let them know that we should stay completely out of this. We should stay completely out of this. In fact, if we had anybody with any sense, any common sense, sitting in the Oval Office, we could end this thing in a very, very short period of time over a very sort of easily to negotiate peace treaty. And it does go back to the days of the Budapest Agreement back in Hungary in 1994. And there's some very, very simple things to do. And that is something that Lavrov and Putin have both talked about. And one of the things that we don't do, Roger, is we don't talk about the issues, the real issues that are in play. What we want is this massive distraction. And that's really what Ukraine has enabled this administration to do, is to distract from, using a foreign policy disaster from all of the other disasters that we are facing right here at home, namely the invasion of our own southern border and the continuation of really a drug war. I mean, this is a chemical war, a biological war, and a physical invasion of our own southern border, and it's an absolute disaster. I'll finish with this, because I want to tie foreign policy, which is what we really want to talk about today in this business over in Ukraine, which is which is horrific, but it's also very solvable. We are being distracted by this administration. Don't think for one second that we're not, in order to take away all of the other problems that we have in this country. And they will drag us in further and further into war. They will use words like nuclear, which are really dangerous words to use, and they will use them and they will blame it on Russia. And believe me, the Russian people have no desire to go to a nuclear war. They don't have any desire to stay in Ukraine much longer. But they're going to stay there, and they're going to meet their what has been described as limited objectives, and they're not going to drag themselves into a bigger war. We've already seen the one mistake in the media. The media tried to drag us into this, where there was a missile that was fired, and it was a counter missile that destroyed the missile that was fired, and pieces of that went into Poland, went across the border of Poland. When they examined the whole thing, they realized that was a Ukrainian missile essentially that blew up and stopped an incoming Russian missile. That kind of nonsense, that kind of tragedy can drag us into a war so quickly, a war that we will never get out of. And we will be in it for a long, long time. And it will cost this country more than the $50 billion that we've already sent over there. It will cost us an ungodly amount of money and lives. And it's not something that we should be involved in.